Beyond this section of cattle panel, and I do have some hardware cloth attached to the bottom of it, is my main crop garden number 5. Main crop gardens is actually permaculture terminology. I'm going to show you the details of it in this video. But to give you an idea, the dimensions of this, just this main crop garden number 5 is about 15 feet square. Now we have 12 cedar posts that we have used in this 15-foot square garden. And I didn't attach it permanently with nails. What I did was I either screwed it or zip tied it on. These posts will last about 15 years and they'll rot on the bottom. And they'll probably still kind of hold together because all the fencing is attaching it. But what you can do, because I didn't attach it permanently, it'll be easy to unattach it. And because it's rotten, it'll be easy to pull out of the ground, turn it around, put the other side in. So if you get 15 years out of the post on one side, you're going to get another 15 on the other. Editing out that side story, on the north side of the garden I have wooden fencing, and that's to slow down the cold north wind. And also it serves as a sun trap, so the sun here in the northern hemisphere is shining from the south, and it's radiating off of this wood fence back into the garden. So it's a little bit of a microclimate. And then on the east and west and the south sides I have welded wire fencing, and I do have hardware cloth on the bottom to slow down rodent traffic from going from one garden to the other. It just slows them down, and that's just what this is all about, is minimizing the risk of pests and disease by separating this all apart. I think I'm going to edit out that side story too. So the next thing I want to show you is the walkway that I constructed, and it's made out of bricks. The important part of this is that we're talking about the long part of the brick down into the soil. So those bricks, I don't know whether they're 5 or 6 inches long. So now when we step on here, we're putting pressure on soil 5 or 6 inches down instead of the topsoil. This is a very important consideration because every time you step on your soil, you are squeezing out the oxygen and killing soil life. And the important part of that is soil life. The secretions of soil life is natural fertilizer for your garden crops. Okay, so the next aspect of this main crop garden number 5 is I have constructed circle beds. This circle bed probably over here. Oh, and I also got these bricks here too. So when I'm walking around in the circle beds, I'm actually stepping on these bricks instead of on the soil. Like right there's a brick, see? There's my foot. So I have it constructed in circle beds. And this is a fellow down in Argentina. His last name was Langham. Look it up, Langham style circle beds. And I actually took part of that idea and I'm utilizing it in a garden here as a means to both water and fertilize, naturally fertilize the crops that I'm growing in the bed. You can see I've got the crop, here in this case it's garlic. I have it growing around the circle, around the outer edge of the circle, and then in the center I have it mulched, and that's where I'm both feeding and watering the crop. Underneath this mulch I have kitchen scraps. You see here's a banana that's starting to decompose, and what that's doing is that's attracting worms and other soil life. And again, it's the soil life that creates the fertilizer that's feeding this crop. I don't have to put any fertilizer on this circle bed. And when I water it, I don't have to water the bed, I water the center, and the mulch and all that captures that water, and there's a lot less evaporation, and now you need a lot less watering to get it done. Now this particular main crop garden number 5, on this side I created or produced or constructed is probably the right word, smaller circle beds, just as a means to figure out what is the best way to do this. So on this side we have small circle beds. On the edge, on the west side, we have only 3 of them because we have a lot of things planted there in the corner. And then we have 2 rows of 4. And I got this really compacted together. And right now I've got one circle bed I haven't planted yet. The ones on the edge, we have elephant garlic, and then on the shade of the wooden fence, we have ramps, and then we have garlic in 3 beds here. A couple of ramps. This bed is actually divided between ramps and garlic. See if they get along together. And I have another bed of garlic here. And then I have 3 beds of Cossack kohlrabi. There's some onions mixed in there too. Now these get really large, and my idea is, and I've done this every year for quite a few years in a row now, is as they grow and they get to be harvestable level, which I feel is probably 2 inches in diameter, I begin to eat them then. And every week I'll eat a couple and thin them out. And at the end of the cycle, probably the end of September, I'll have 4 or 5 left. And those have been allowed to grow. And I've grown as large as 12.5 pounders in the past. So in this bed right here, these 3 beds here, this is a larger circle. And I want to find out if the crops do just as well in the larger circle as they do in the smaller ones. And in this particular bed I have potato onions, and I know there's one that's just started coming up. No, that's not it. I saw one someplace. They're always really small. Potato onions and radishes. Now this bed is going to get a number of different crops. The radishes, we'll be harvesting those in 30 days because these are a small radish. The potato onions we'll be harvesting in August, and then we'll start another crop. And whether it be garlic that I'll plant in October, or maybe I'll decide to do another round of fall radishes, we'll have to figure that out then. But there'll be 3 different crops in this bed this year. This bed is the same. Potato, onions, and radishes. And then in this bed, it's kind of interesting. I have some candy onions planted in here, and I'm not probably going to allow them to grow to their maturity. We're going to be eating those as soon as the spring onions become too hard to eat. And then behind that, I'm going to be growing tomatoes right along the fence. Tomatoes like it hot, and that fence will heat it up for them. And I'll have a couple of tomatoes over here as well. You can see I got the cages all set up already. Here's a cage, and here's a cage. You can see those cages pretty plain. And there's also a bed of stinging nettles growing all along that area, all around the edges. The 2 things I do is I'm going to be, of course, I'm making nettle tea now, but the other thing I'm going to be doing is that nettles in the front of that honeyberry will never grow any taller than 6 or 8 inches because I'm going to keep clipping it, and then that'll be some of the food that I put into the center of these circle beds underneath to help feed the worms. Oh, I just saw a couple of redworms just there. See them? Look at that. Look at that. See them? That's what I'm talking about right there. But anyways, the stinging nettles will feed all this soil life. Anything green, soil life will eat. And then the ones in the back I'll actually let grow out to probably over the top of this fence. But the point is, tomatoes really like to grow at stinging nettles. So we're going to let that happen. And then we'll keep going back here towards the south. We have a grapevine right there. You can see it right into the corner. I think that's a Venus. There's another grapevine on the other side of the fence right there. So we've got 2 grapevines that are growing in this fence line on the east side. And we have a honeyberry, we mentioned that. This is a captivator gooseberry right there, starting to leaf out. There's another small honeyberry that you can hardly see. And then those green little shoots, those are elephant garlic. A thorny gooseberry, thorny black raspberries in the corner. This is an espaliered pear tree right here. Yeah, right here, right here. Yeah. There's a blackberry that I think lived. Let's do a test on it. Oh, no, it's dead. So anything that didn't live through -23 last year I've been digging out, so that's got to come out. Then there's one of those black currants that I got from Okios. These are really some tough plants. Here's something very interesting. Let me walk into my brick area here. Look what I got planted here. I don't know how it's going to taste, but I'm going to try it. This is the same thing here. I don't know where the tag went for this one though. I'll have to try to find it. It must be down there in the leaf litter. And then there's a serviceberry right here, or Juneberry. I don't know if you can't even see that, can you? There's another Juneberry. And we have a plum tree. This one costs a lot of money. And then there's another thorny black raspberry in the corner. Here's some cherry tree shoots that I've suckered up from this sour cherry that's on the other side of the fence. And we're almost done. Here's a black thornless blackberry that made it through the winter. 23 below. I think that's special. Now there is some, looks like something's happened here, so hopefully it's going to continue to live. It's not as bad on this side. So that's the only problem I see, that maybe that'll choke it off. I could see a green coming up on the bottom. There's a green shoot coming up. I don't see anything up here yet. I can see the ends of these things definitely have died back. Let's do a scratch test. I did a scratch test somewhere else on this thing. I'd like to be close to that, but I don't see where it is, so we'll start another one here. Oh yeah, it's green. I lived. So that's big news now. Something really interesting is this. I got a little grapevine growing right in front of the blackberry, and then I have a larger, more mature grapevine growing behind it, so it's sandwiched between the two. Grapes and blackberries are actually companion plants, so if that had something to do with it, I don't know. But this grapevine I gotta tell you about, I don't even know the name of it anymore, but it's got these little bitty grapes the size of blueberries, and they're seedless. Are they delicious? Right here. And then I got another gooseberry, actually a couple of them, and one more item here is, this is a pear tree I just got from Mikhail and that's what it's called, Summer Crisp, and it's been grafted right here, and then the rootstock grew another shoot, so I'm going to go ahead and graft that too. So I have two different kinds of pears here, and I'll espalier that along this fence. So the branches of it, on this side I won't let it grow very far, but on this side I'm going to let those branches grow. Hopefully I can get it to grow all the way to the edge here. And we'll have pears hanging off that wall. We'll utilize that space too. Maybe I'll let a couple branches grow up into that trellis so we have pears hanging down. When we walk through, you know, we won't even have to pick them. We can just eat them right off the tree. So that's it. I think that's it. Did I talk about this bed here? Those are skirret. I've been doing some videos on skirret here lately, and you can see here I got some really nice growth going on here. These were the larger. I actually sectioned them off three different ways. One is I just had single slips, and then one is I have multiple slips, and then the third one is I had multiple slips, but I left some of the old, more mature roots on them. And that's what these ones are on this bed here. And then in the front I actually have some single slips growing that were really small, just to see how they would do. And right now that's the only one I see. And the reason why I got it up against this wooden fence here is because in March, that's the first soil that thaws out. And I'll be able to harvest that right away as soon as it thaws out, and that'll be, you know, a lot of food right at the time when my stores will be petering out, and I'll be getting that fresh root that I'll be able to eat in the spring, early spring. maybe late winter. Some winters here it thaws out early March. I might be eating these early March, sometime in March. Oh, and there's a couple more plants here. This here is actually an edible version of plantain, and that is a white celery. Got a couple more here, a lineup of them right there. That's something one of my permaculture acquaintances just brought over. Both of those two, and then there's a good King Henry someplace. Is that in this bed or not? Oh yeah, there's a good King Henry right here. Yeah, that's a perennial as well, and probably will be growing early in the year. I'll be able to harvest it. And I'm sure there's some other surprises I got planted in here that just haven't come up yet. We'll see what happens. So that's the story of main crop garden number 5. This is my second video on it this year. I'll do another video when things are starting to grow up, certainly before the garlic's harvested. You can see how it progresses. So now you know the story of my main crop garden number 5. And that's what I have. Actually I have 6 of them because I have a composting area I turned into a main crop garden after I'm done with my spring composting effort. I got 6 main crop gardens, and it took this long just to get through one little 15-foot square. All the rest of them are pretty similar to this. There's a lot of stuff packed in, and I'm able to do this primarily because of the aerobic compost that I've been making. And we'll have to edit out that side story. And I have a lot of videos on aerobic composting, so check them out. You can do this too. Anybody can do this. All you need is a little bit of land, a little bit of a backyard. Just think what you can do with just 15 square feet. And if you start the garden by going 12 feet square, then all you need to buy is a 50-foot roll of the welded wire and a 50-foot roll of the hardware cloth for the bottom. So that's general technical information on main crop garden number 5. This is an update, and thank you for watching.